Joe Biden recognized his 7th granddaughter. If you didn't hear, Joe Biden's approval rating has hit a low point. And when I say low point, I mean truly the lowest point, which I got to be honest, it does surprise me a little bit. He's not doing great. Nothing great is going on, but nothing newsworthy is really happening. I suppose outside of this going on, but like Afghanistan was just abysmal what happened there. There were worse times in the economy, when inflation was hitting 8, 9, 10%, among other gaffes that have happened during his presidency. So I am surprised to see that his low point has come now. It's hovering in kind of the high 30s. 40% is kind of the most conservative. Maybe I would say 40% is conservative. Even I know we should trust polling in a way because it is larger than just our anecdotal evidence. But if you go out and talk to people, are there really 40% of people who are cool with Joe Biden? I have a hard time believing that. I would say his approval rating is closer to 35%. So I'm on the side of a little bit more of those extreme polls. But in any case, the average poll comes out to about 40%. That's what he's sitting at. That's not great going into the first Republican primary debate, which is happening this month. People are going to really start thinking about the 2024 election. And even though he's not being he is being a primary, but although he's not going to be part of any primary debates, and he's really at this point not in any danger of losing his incumbency as the Democrat primary leader, as the nominee, it's still not a good look for him as people start thinking a little bit more about 2024 and people might start registering Republican so they can vote in that primary. With the Bidens, there is a lot of scandal that's gone on. I mean, we know about this Hunter Biden smoking, or I shouldn't say, he's probably not, well, I don't know. He was probably smoking it too. I don't know what he was doing with it. I just know he was snorting it off of prostitutes. But, cocaine in the White House. We've got his business dealings with Ukraine, China, all of that craziness. But it doesn't end there. It continues mostly with Hunter Biden. That's rough. I would say I'm sorry for Joe Biden because he's got this deadbeat son who's always giving him issues. The problem is Joe Biden's like part of it. If he wasn't part of it, then I would maybe feel a little bit worse for him that he's got this son that's making it bad for him. I mean, these are things that I think a lot of presidents have to think about, unfortunately. It's their family. What are their family doing? What are their actions, unfortunately, go upon them. And so that's the case with Hunter Biden. But in this case, Joe Biden really doesn't have a lot to do with it. He does, unfortunately, have to do with what he said on it. And that's what he's kind of being brought to task with right now. So Hunter Biden had sex with a prostitute 4 or 5 years ago. Well, I guess it would be 5 years ago. And had a baby with her. Now, this baby's name is Navy. Beautiful name, by the way. Like, I feel bad for this child. I want to put that out there just really quick. I feel bad for Navy because your parents are a prostitute and Hunter Biden. That's rough. So anyway, all the sympathy in the world for Navy. Hunter Biden had sex with this prostitute, had this baby. Hunter Biden was forced to pay child support. There were some nasty legal battles there. I'm happy he is paying child support. In fact, he should be doing a lot more. That's a podcast for another day, but just talking about how abortion is being spiked so much by male and female unaccountability and irresponsibility. That is definitely a conversation that we need to have, and that's something that Hunter Biden's definitely been a part of here. But he was forced to pay child support. He's talked about it at length. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I'm not really interested. This is really a story about in the tabloids. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but it's really not that important of a story. It has an underlying idea behind it that it's the reason why I'm talking about it today. There is an underlying reason why this is an important story, but the story itself is really not that important. Republicans are going to pounce on it. Out of all the things that we could attack Joe Biden on, even Hunter Biden on himself, not the one, but it is still important, so I want to talk about it. Hunter Biden was forced to pay child support for this. Joe has said he has 6 grandchildren up to this point, okay? So Joe Biden has a pretty large family, but whenever he talks about it, he says, he uses the word 6. And it's kind of funny, too, because a lot of journalists this has been a story for a while, because Navy has existed for 4 years, and I guess 5 years if you include the pregnancy. So I don't know if it was in really I don't know if that was really in the public light at that point. I think Hunter Biden and the Biden family in general were really trying to keep that quiet. But essentially, journalists would come to him and they'd say, hey, Joe Biden, and they would do it in these sneaky ways. I appreciated it, by the way. I think it's funny. But they would say, tell us about your grandchildren, name them off. And he would name them off, and he would name all of them off except Navy. And sometimes he would even forget others by accident. But people would press him on, like, are you just forgetting the names of your grandchildren, or are you deliberately leaving out one of your grandchildren? And it turns out he was deliberately leaving them out. He finally came out this last week and gave a kind of half-hearted answer about how Navy is there, but that he's leaving things to Hunter Biden to decide, and his partner. Basically, his reasoning was that, hey, I'm just not speaking to it right now because it's not any of my business, and I'm just trying to be respectful to their privacy. On one hand, I understand that, and I think that's a powerful kind of ethos to give to the American people, because he's supposed to be the nice grandpa, right? But in all reality, the Bidens come from a big place of power and money, and they've had this child in their family, one of the 7 of Joe Biden's grandchildren, and they're not financially supporting it. Especially right now, one of the reasons why people are talking about it is because the child support that Hunter Biden has been giving is now decreasing. He's trying to decrease that child support. And so Joe Biden has been ignoring it this whole time. He's finally coming out and saying, the reason why I didn't talk about it was because I was kind of leaving it to Hunter Biden. And everyone kind of agrees that that's just BS. And what really happened is he just didn't want that out there. I mean, it doesn't look good to have a grandchild that came from a prostitute and your deadbeat son. One of the things that he said, Hunter Biden literally said this, he said, I was such a mess during that time that I didn't even know what was going on. Like, he didn't even remember that he had had sex with that prostitute. And so it actually took a DNA test between, for the baby, for them to determine that the father, well, the prostitute knew the father was Hunter Biden, but to prove to Hunter Biden that it was his, because he claims he was in such a bad mental state. And I don't know if that's true or not, but regardless, not a good look for Hunter Biden, and even worse look for Joe Biden, because he is also promulgating that and supporting his son in the nasty business that he was a part of. The story is fantasized a bit. Like, it's not a big deal, to be honest. And I say that it's a big deal for Navy. It totally is. And that's why I'm talking about it. It's sad for her. I hope she has a good life. But it's not a big deal in American politics. It doesn't really matter. This is not the issue that Republicans need to focus on. There are way worse things that the Bidens are doing, such as what's going on at the southern border, how they're complicit in sex trafficking down there, as well as letting millions of migrants across, how they have done awful things abroad in Afghanistan, Ukraine. There's much worse things that they could focus on than this small little issue, which is indirectly tied to Joe Biden.